What is going on, everyone? My name is the California Cougar, and welcome back to another Survivor Season Series review. Today, I'm talking about one of the most well-known, if not the most well-known season of Survivor. That, of course, is the 20th season, Heroes versus Villains. This is the second season that is full of All-Stars, meaning that the entire cast is returning players. It's the second season like that. Fans versus favorites had half returning, half new, so it doesn't really count. I'm talking about seasons that are entirely made up of returning players. All-Stars was the first. Heroes versus Villains was the second. Now, when it comes to Survivor Heroes versus Villains, this is often regarded as the best season of Survivor by many Survivor fans. It's in almost every Survivor fan's top 5, at least the ones that I know. And it's a big season. It's got a huge cast, got a lot of challenges, a lot of interesting moments throughout the season. As for how I feel about it, so again, like I said, a lot of people love this season, and I was highly anticipating it when it was first announced. I absolutely love the cast for the most part. I was so excited to see a season of entirely made up of returning players. When I first started watching Survivor All-Stars was the season that I was watching, but it was like Final 5, so it was really late into the season when I first started watching that. So this is the first full Survivor All-Star season that I actually watched. I was so excited to watch it because I was excited to see people like Colby, Rupert, Boston Rob, who else? Amanda, James, and many others. JT, many people come back. I was so excited to see a lot of these people come back. And when I finished watching it, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. This is going to be a very, very controversial opinion. Survivor Heroes vs. Villains is without question the most overrated season of Survivor. And I'm really sorry to say that because, again, I was super looking forward to it. But man, I thought it was a huge letdown. I don't really understand where people are coming from when they say it's the best season of Survivor. But of course, I have to be fair and say what I liked about the season. Now, again, for the most part, I really, really like this cast. I think bringing back people like James, JT, Tom Westman, Boston Rob, Rupert, Russell, Hance came back, Colby, Jerry. I mean, we're talking like old school pre-season 8 players are making their third appearance. This is the first season to feature players making their third appearance on the show, by the way. A lot of people tend to forget that. But yeah, this was the first season where players made their third appearance. Now, the Heroes versus Villains theme. There are some, so the Heroes versus Villains theme had a cast of 10 heroes, 10 villains of Survivor. Some of these picks are kind of questionable, or these designations as heroes and villains, I should say. Like, why was Sandra a villain? Like, her whole mantra was, as long as it ain't me. That was her whole thing in Pearl Islands. She wasn't the villain of that season. Fairplay was. She was against Fairplay the whole time, so shouldn't she be a hero? She wasn't really disloyal to anybody except for Fairplay and Burton, who are both big villains. So wouldn't that make her a hero? I don't know. And then you have Candace on the Hero Tribe, which I don't get that either. Like, how the hell is betraying your tribe a hero move? I guess the reason is they saw the mutiny as a hero move because they were like, oh, these are the people that I want to play with. Candace was like, these are the people I want to play with. I want to play with Adam. I want to play with Parvati. And they called that a hero move, even though she turned her back on Yul, Ozzy, Sundra, and Becky, and even Jonathan in a way. Even though Jonathan mutinied as well. Now, Jonathan was a villain. I would say that if Jonathan Penner was on this season, he would have been a villain for sure. But Candace, how is she a hero? Because she got sent to exile 4 times by her old tribe? And she cried out there? I don't get that designation. There are some other questionable designations as well. Like Sugar being a hero, I don't really understand that. Stephanie's kind of 50-50. She was a hero in Palau, but a villain in Guatemala. Um, and like JT was kind of a mix between both. I guess he was a hero because he was likable, so it kind of makes sense, I guess. It was an underdog season. Everyone loves the underdog, so I guess I could see why he's a hero. But yeah, like Sandra and Candace are the biggest ones. Also, some of this cast I don't really like. Like Sugar, wasn't really a fan of her. No big deal because she was voted out first. Danielle, I don't really know why Danielle was brought back. I guess from what I read, Corinne from Gabon was supposed to be in Danielle's spot, but Danielle replaced her because Corinne couldn't do it because of work obligations or something like that. But yeah, Corinne I think would have been a much better choice. I would have loved to see her on the season, especially with people like Randy and Sugar. Yeah, Randy would have had another ally on that villain's tribe. Unfortunately, he got kind of left out. So overall, the cast, it does have a few flaws, but for the most part, I do love it. Again, Rupert, James, JT, Colby, Amanda, even Parvati to an extent. I didn't love Parvati in Micronesia, but she was fun in Micronesia. And I liked her in Cook Islands a lot, so I guess you could say I was glad she was back. And then, of course, people like Russell Hantz. I was excited to see Russell Hantz back. And Boston Rob, of course. Speaking of Boston Rob and Russell Hantz, let's talk about some great moments this season. By far the best moment of the season was the Rob-Russell rivalry that happened throughout the pre-merge. Like, for the most part, the pre-merge was awesome. Like, pretty much up until the point where Boston Rob was voted out, which we'll get to in a second. But, yeah, the pre-merge was awesome. The first few tribal councils, there were blindsides everywhere. Cerie's blindside was great. Tyson voting himself off was a classic moment, even though it was so dumb and ultimately cost Boston Rob the game. I do think Boston Rob would have won the game if he had or if they get through that vote. Like, I really do think, because the villains were winning so many challenges at that point. They were winning almost every challenge. It wasn't until Boston Rob was voted off that the heroes started making their comeback. And of course, probably the one moment post-merge that was sort of iconic was Parvati playing two idols on Jerry and Sandra, trying to keep them in. But yeah, really, other than that part of the pre-merge with the Rob-Russell rivalry, and I guess the dysfunction between all the heroes, with like, you have like Tom and Colby and Amanda, or not Amanda, Tom, Colby, who else was over there? Stephanie on one side and the rest of the heroes on the other. Like, that was fun to watch. Tom playing his idol at the 5th Tribal Council or whatever that was. No, it was the 4th where Cerie was voted out. Yeah, that was a fun moment. And of course, the Tyson blindside, voting himself out. Rob's blindside was alright, but it was kind of because Coach pussied out and Jerry flipped. So, I don't know. But everything after Rob was voted out was so boring and so predictable. I just could not get into it at all. Again, aside from the JT boot where he was voted out with his own idol, we'll talk about that in a second. Like, aside from that, there was really nothing iconic about this post-merge at all. I don't get where people are coming from. People are saying, oh, like, they tried to blindside Parvati. Well, if they tried to blindside Parvati, and then Russell goes back on his word and votes off Rupert and Colby instead, because Parvati had won immunity at Final 5 and Final 6. I guess the Danielle blindside was there, but again, like, I don't understand all the love for this season, especially post-merge. It was just so boring, so predictable. The Coach boot was predictable. The Courtney boot, saw that coming a mile away. Yeah, the whole JT giving the idol to Russell thing, yeah, who didn't see that coming? Or who didn't see how that would turn out? JT. And yeah, JT was disappointing this season. For as hyped as I was about him, he was so disappointing. Like, he could have potentially won if he held on to that idol. Could have used it for the heroes, kept himself in the game at Final 10. Heroes take the majority, and then boom, Parvati goes, like, actually, who did they vote? Jerry. They voted Jerry. Parvati goes next, then Russell, then Danielle, and then Sandra goes at the end. And then, of course, Sandra's talking about flipping the whole time. She doesn't even flip. She doesn't flip. She says that she tried to flip. Why did she not flip at Final 10? Why did she not flip at Final 9? I guess Candace was to blame for that. Proof again that Candace was on the wrong tribe at the beginning, flipping over to the villains to vote off Amanda. So dumb. Like, yeah, the challenges post-merge, they weren't really anything special. They were just repeated challenges from the past. They were okay, I guess, but again, nothing really all that special. The location was whatever. It was on an island. It was in Samoa. So, yeah, pretty much the same as every other island. And again, like the heroes versus villains theme, I didn't really feel like that ever came into play until like post-merge. And even then, again, it was a total letdown. Why was there no tribe swap? Like, part of what makes a good Survivor season, like, and it makes it less predictable, is a tribe swap. Because then, like, you don't have people trying to pagong other tribes. And I know there wasn't a tribe swap in Tocantins, but the Jalapao made that work. The Jalapao tribe made that work. There was no tribe in Samoa either, but again, Foa made that work. Like, the underdog stories are what save those seasons from a total pagonging. So, yeah, I was just so disappointed with how this season turned out. JT's boot, like, you knew JT was gone as soon as the idols were played. No suspense in that vote whatsoever. And then you could pretty much predict everything else. Amanda goes out next. Then Candace, because she betrayed the heroes. Rupert and Colby had no reason to keep her. They vote her out. And then of course, they say they would have voted Parvati out. Or Russell, Rupert, and Colby would have teamed up to vote off Parvati at Final 6. I would have liked to see how that would work out. Unfortunately, Parvati won immunity, and instead of voting Jerry out, or Sandra had an idol, so they couldn't really do much about it, but instead of voting Jerry out, Russell's like, I just gotta vote Colby. And, like, Russell was not winning this season, by the way. He was not winning. He was, like, I thought his jury management was fine in Samoa. The jury was just super bitter. His jury management was horrible this season. My God, he thought he was a god. He thought he was God's gift to Survivor, and he kept preaching that throughout this entire season. And to the jury, like, he was like, "Oh, I got here through my strategic play. Vote for me. I was the best player." Even though Parvati kind of drug him along throughout this entire season. And then, of course, the final three: Parvati, Russell, Sandra. Lackluster final three. I'm sorry. How in the hell do you let two winners get to the final three? And the third person is Russell Hantz, who nobody likes. Parvati should have won, by the way. I do think Parvati would have been a worthy winner this season. Sandra, like I said, I think she's one of the most overrated Survivor players of all time. Just because she won twice, I don't think she's the best player, like a lot of people do. Like, winning 2 times, that's just a number. Like, you have to be memorable, and Sandra wasn't that memorable. And from what I've heard from Russell Hantz's channel, I don't know if Russell was telling the truth on his channel or not, but from what I heard, yeah, Russell Hantz is a YouTube channel, by the way. From what I've heard, Sandra said that she would leave the game for 2 movie tickets and $50,000. Or Jeff asked that on Heroes vs. Villains. Sandra raised her hand. So, yeah, like, how is she the best Survivor player ever? I'm sorry. I don't get it. I really don't. And, again, the jury was super bitter this season. Not towards Russell, but towards Parvati. Like I said, Parvati should have won. Like, I knew Rupert was going to vote for Sandra. Rupert and Sandra were, like, super buddy-buddy on Pearl Islands. And, like, Rupert was mad at himself for not listening to Sandra this season when she was trying to talk to Rupert about Russell in the final 10. And, like, yeah, Sandra's highlight this season was probably getting rid of Coach, maybe. But I saw that coming a mile away. Her other highlight was burning Russell's hat. That was it. Like, that's really it. There's really nothing to this post-merge. So, yeah, and the final vote, like, all the heroes voted for Sandra. And then 3 of the villains on the jury voted for Parvati. Coach, Jerry, and I think Danielle was the other one. Like, you could kind of see where the votes were going. You knew Russell had no shot. His jury management was awful this season. But again, I really think Parvati should have won. It would have been nice to see Boston Rob make this season, and maybe that's because of my bias towards Boston Rob and how much I think he's a great Survivor player. But I really think he would have made the season a whole lot more entertaining if he was in the post-merge. So that's my thoughts on that. It was a shame to see him go. And again, like, a lot of the heroes were disappointing. Like I said, Candace, JT, Colby, Rupert, all of them were big disappointments this season, I thought. Rupert was likable, but that's really it. Colby, he was just there. He just mentally checked out after JT was voted off, pretty much. Like, JT was trying, but he just made the dumbest moves possible by giving his idol away to Russell. Dumbass. And I still can't believe the heroes thought there was a women's alliance on the villains tribe. That's just crazy to me. But it is what it is. I mean, the season's over. Nothing you can do about it. But yeah, people saying this is the best season ever, I seriously don't get that at all. So, yeah, heroes versus villains, I'm sorry. I think it's one of the most overrated seasons ever. Again, pre-merge up until Boston Rob was voted out was a 10 out of 10. For sure. It was a 10 out of 10. It was on track to be a 10 out of 10 season. And then Boston Rob gets voted out, and then the season just nosedives into the ground from there. And it ended up being very forgettable. Not a season that I would want to watch again and again. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on heroes versus villains. With that being said, it's time to give it a score. You guys probably aren't going to like this score very much, but I'm going to give heroes versus villains a 4 out of 10. I mean, once again, guys, words cannot express how disappointed I was with this season. It should have been a great season. I should have loved it. I really wanted this to be a good season. I was so hyped up for it, but in my eyes, it's just the most disappointing season ever to me. I'm really sorry to say that. I think it's overrated. I don't understand the hype behind it. It's just because it's got a good cast doesn't mean it's going to be a good season. And that's just how I feel about this season. There weren't really a lot of blindslides, especially post-merge. So, yeah, it got boring after a while. So, yes, I'm sorry to say that about this season, guys. What did you think about this season? Let me know down in the comments below what you think of it. Make sure to hit the thumbs up button on this video if you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to my channel for more videos to come in the future. And next week we move on to the second half of the Survivor season series reviews with season 21, Survivor Nicaragua. So once again, make sure to subscribe for that. Make sure and stay tuned for that video next Wednesday. And until that next video, once again, my name is the California Cougar. And always remember, stay California cool. Peace.